Starting with our walk-around, my presentation always happens where I start at the engine first, because as we talked about inside, that's what the trucker is looking for, is torque. And then I move to the side of the truck, and I'm going to talk about the braking capability of this truck, because gentlemen, as we mentioned inside, look, pulling is easy. That's easy. In a trailer scenario, if you've ever done any trailering, pulling is the easy part. In fact, all these trucks, they'll pull a trailer. Where do we separate the pretenders from the contenders? Stopping. And when it comes to stopping, our Tundra, our Tacoma, our Toyota trucks are over-engineered. And I want to talk about that, so that's a point for you to share with your customers. As I move down the side of the truck, I do want to talk to you about the frame on this truck, because we have a unique frame design. We believe it's the proper way to do a frame design. All of our competitors do it differently, and they advertise against our frame design, so I'm going to spend time on that. We'll get to the back of the truck, and I'll talk to you about controlling heavy loads with a very unique rear suspension geometry as well as components. And then of course I'm always going to end at the driver's door, and at that point I believe I've built enough trust and rapport with my customers and confidence in my abilities that when I ask them, are they ready to drive this Tundra, the answer I'm expecting is what? Yes. And then I'm going to reinforce that prior to that by setting them up in the seat. And the way I do it is I look to gather yeses in that process. So for example, please don't ask the customer as you're moving that seat, and it's of course what we're going to do, because if I, for example, bring this Tundra around and look at my height compared to, for example, KC's height, and I put KC, what are you, 6'3"? 6'3" into that seat in my position, what's KC's first impression of my Tundra if he's in my, it doesn't fit, right Arlen? So it doesn't fit. Well, I want to avoid that. So I move that seat all the way back, and then I say to KC when I get him in there, KC, do you feel that seat moving forward? And I'm moving it forward now. I don't ask him, is he comfortable? Because if I ask him, is he comfortable, what do I have, a 50-50 shot of him saying what? No, thank you, and I don't want that word. So do you feel that seat moving forward? Yes. Please tell me yes when it's in the proper seating position. Yes. Do you feel that seat moving up? Yes. Please tell me when it's in the proper seating position. Yes. Do you feel all these connections? Yes. We're creating that yes moment, and that's where I end up. Are you prepared to drive this truck? Yes. After my test drive, what's my final question?
You want to buy this truck?
Are you prepared to buy this truck, correct? Yes, that's what we're after. So let me talk about engaging with customers. And to do that, what I'm going to do first is lift the hood on this Tundra. And when I lift the hood, one of the things I like to do to get engagement and draw the customer in is create a show experience. And guys, this is show and tell. It is even show time, if you will. So what I do is I always start by lifting off this cover. And when I take this cover off, look what happens. What does everybody do?
Come look at me.
You come gather around, right? Well, that's what I want to do with my customer. And what I'm really doing is I'm rolling up my sleeves. I'm getting serious here. So I always take the cover and I set it right here. Very stable part. I am going to talk about air induction. However, I still have that right here, so I can use that as a visual. And what I just revealed is my ACIS, my acoustic controlled induction system. And we talked about inside, your intake plenum has flap valves. And those flap valves run down the center of your intake plenum. I'm inducing my air into this system. And if I need a short breath of air, I open the flap valves and I drop that short breath of air in. And I'm creating the horsepower that the customer needs out on 84, going 70 miles an hour to turn this truck 1900 RPM. It's barely working. However, if my throttle says I need torque, I keep those flap valves closed. That air inducts, it takes a long, deep breath of air, packs that cylinder with air, and it creates the torque that my customer demanded with that throttle switch, telling the vehicle what it desires. Torque, horsepower, or the combination of the two. Now your VVTi is easily shown right here on your head. You've got two electronic solenoid connections. That's your VVTi. On both heads, you've got a solenoid connection right here. That variable valve timing plus intelligence is your infinitely variable cam selection. So I'm controlling my 4 valves per cylinder using that technology to open wide for a big breath of air, open minimally for a short, quick breath of air, again creating that efficiency, horsepower, and torque based on demand by my customer and that throttle sensor. So those two features are easily accessible here, as well as the overall engineered nature of our engine compartment. And if you do look at a competitor's engine compartment, you will notice there's a lack of engineering that goes into their positioning. So you'll notice on some of our domestics, they're using this old rubber. It is literally recycled tire material, However, it looks very dated. It's not as engineered. Everything's not in the proper position. And truckers, they may still work on these vehicles, so they may do their own fluids. Everything is easily accessible, your battery for a change. If you're going to work on this vehicle, there's an engineered nature to it, so it takes perhaps less time for the technician to work on this engine because of Toyota's commitment to fit and finish and quality, durability, and reliability. I then, of course, always put this back on so I know I've done it, and it's very easy to do. You'll notice there's 2 tabs on the back here, and those 2 tabs align with that bar right there. So I take this, I just line it up with those tabs right on that bar, like so. I drop it down, and then there's a pivot point, a connection point right here and there, and all I do is just drop it back on, and now it's there. Now, of course, I'm always going to close the hood on this truck because my intention, of course, is to drive this truck with that customer. So I reach up, close the hood, and when I do that, for 2018, I have a very new and important feature that I need to speak about with every one of my Toyota truck customers, and that's Toyota Safety Sense P. And gentlemen, as you're aware, we introduced this several years ago, and by the end of this year, it will be standard on 90% of your Toyota products. Well, we are leading the truck industry with this technology. Currently, the only other vehicle that offers this technology is the Ford F-150 on model year 2018 trucks. However, it's not available yet, so I can't tell you. However, from past Ford experience, it will be only available on higher trim levels, and then you will have to buy it with other packages. So let me give you an example of what's going on with Ford right now. If I were to buy a Ford Fusion SE trim, which would be equivalent to our Toyota Camry SE trim, in order to put this advanced safety technology into that Ford Fusion SE, it would cost me $7,550. And here's why. In order to buy the package that has that technology, Ford forces you to buy a bunch of other packages, and by the time you're all in on that Ford Fusion SE, $7,550. Well, you're right, Chad. Ouch, right? Well, when that F-150 gets this technology, I'll get back to you with the cost factoring and the application. However, I remind you, standard on every Toyota Tundra and Tacoma for model year 18 is TSSP. Now, you'll know that quickly by this Toyota emblem with the clear cover. That is protecting your millimeter wave radar. And that millimeter wave radar is going out approximately 400 feet in front of this vehicle to protect our Toyota customer and their family. It goes out in a V shape. And what it's doing is it's looking to capture as much as it can out there. And everywhere I turn this truck, that V shape follows. So I've got 400 feet out in front. My TSSP, my millimeter wave radar, is looking for danger. Working in coordination with that is my camera, which is on the left side of your windshield at the top there. And that camera is taking a picture of everything identified by this millimeter wave radar. Now that camera is specifically looking for 2 things. It is looking for a vehicle, first and foremost, because the most common rear collision between a car is another car. So it's got a set of pictures around taillights, license plate, and it's got a visual of cars that it's looking for. The other thing that our advanced system does is look for people. So we have TSSP with pedestrian detection. Well, the way that camera works is it has a dedicated computer with approximately 20,000 pictures of the human shape. And when this millimeter wave radar picks out a bogey up ahead and that camera takes a picture, it scrolls through, it gets a match. This truck, then depending on a car, not depending, but if it's a car or a pedestrian, has the ability to apply the brakes autonomously to reduce the speed 25 miles an hour at higher speeds to slow the truck down to mitigate the impact, or at slower speeds to stop the truck to avoid impact with a car or pedestrian. Now, of course, this is the advanced safety technology that is leading the industry. And again, I remind you, standard on every Tundra and every Tacoma. Now, when you talk to customers about trucks, of course, they want to know truck stuff. And while this is all very crucial, the underneath the truck is where you really take a look at things. And what I want to highlight here is, again, just the design element that goes into this. One example would be your skid plate there, hard metal. It's protecting your oil pan, it's protecting other components up front, it's protecting this truck. It also adds some aerodynamics, so you're creating a little bit more efficient drive capability. And then another thing I'd highlight are your tow horns. So you got one tow horn there and one tow horn here. And those tow horns are large. In fact, they are equivalent to your competitors' 1-ton tow horns. So if I'm going to pull anything with this truck going backwards, I hook on there and I've got that capability. It is actually literally bolted into the frame of this truck. So you know that it's there to haul and tow whatever we say it can haul and tow. And again, all of this in the front of the truck is highlighting the benefit of our trucks over our competitor trucks. What I'll do now is I'll invite you to step around the side of the truck, and as we step around to the side, I am going to pause here at the front axle, and I'm going to talk about the wheel here. And when I talk about the front axle, I want to talk about brakes specifically. And I digress back to my statement earlier. If you've ever done any trailering, you know the easy part is pulling. The hard part, what separates the pretenders from the contenders, is stopping. Well, in 2017, 2018 model year for vehicles, when you talk about brakes and other components in a vehicle, you always must talk about, in these days, hardware and software. And in our trucks, we have the hardware, and then of course we have the software to back it up. So when you look at this front wheel, behind that wheel is the largest brake rotor in the half-ton truck segment. In fact, our brake rotors are equivalent to our competitors' 1-ton brake rotors. Well, that's important because the larger the brake rotor, the larger the brake pad, the more surface I have to stop this vehicle, the better hardware I have. Now, our brake pads are applied using a 4-piston caliper. And what I mean by that is you have 2 pistons on each brake pad, and when you apply the brakes in this truck, you put those pads onto that rotor, very specifically, just like this. Well, our competitors use a 2-piston slider caliper, and what happens is this pad has a piston pushing it, but then this follows as a slide. Now, obviously I'm exaggerating this, but this is how it works. Apply, follow. Apply, follow. Ours, apply. So we have a better hardware application, and then of course software with our Star Safety, which is still very crucial to a truck experience. ABS, brake assist, EBD, track, and VSC. Of course, in our Tundra you have standard sway control for a trailer as well. Well, ABS, the ability to brake and steer, is crucial, because if I have a 10,000-pound trailer behind me and I see traffic stopping and I go to hard brakes, perhaps I can steer and avoid that collision. Ability to brake and steer. Brake assist, of course, panic. I hit the pedal quickly. Well, that pedal is connected to a computer that then applies that pedal harder and faster than humanly possible to give me all my brake capability. So I get better brake capability just by that quick stab. And then of course EBD, very crucial in a truck, because electronic brake force distribution actually proportions my brake front to back. Because typically 80% of your brake force is on the front axle, 20% is on the back. We have a lot of weight with the engine up here. However, if I put a load in the back of the truck, do I still want 80-20? Nope. No, I'd prefer 50-50, 60-40, whatever it is. We proportion it based on weight and traction in this vehicle, which of course gives you a better experience in driving this vehicle. So all of this hardware and this software work in conjunction with each other with very little input from the consumer. It's all working to help that consumer have a safe, enjoyable trailer and driving experience. Now, as I moved through the truck, I did lay mirrors down here on the side of the truck, and a couple things I want to point out here is, first of all, the stainless steel. So as I lift this up, does everybody see that nice stainless steel exhaust? Yep. Look at those catalytic converters, guys. $200 more platinum in there, right? And those shiny objects, that's your stainless steel. Well, what's the benefit of stainless steel over typical steel? Resistant to corrosion, right? Lighter weight, dissipates heat better. We talked about the aluminum. You heard Mike talk about the aluminum transfer case, the aluminum transmission case. Lighter weight, dissipates heat. Well, what I want to focus now on is our frame on the Tundra. And this applies to the Tacoma, everything I'm speaking to you about. And we use what's called a triple tech frame. And what a triple tech frame means is we're using 3 different frames in 3 different areas on this truck. And Toyota does that specifically because we believe that's the proper frame application. Our competitors all use fully boxed frames from front to back on their trucks. Well, gentlemen, we do use fully boxed frame technology. As a matter of fact, the sister vehicle to this vehicle, the Sequoia, uses a fully boxed frame from front to back. And the reason we use a fully boxed frame on that Sequoia is because what am I going to put in the back of the Sequoia that I shouldn't put in the back of this Tundra? That's right. I'm not going to say you won't put it, because we've all ridden in the back of a truck, right? However, Chad, you're right. You shouldn't put people back there. So I use a fully boxed frame on that Sequoia. I do use fully boxed frame technology on this truck. As a matter of fact, from the front of the truck to right here, you guys can see right there. So follow that up to the leading edge of the door handle, I am a fully boxed frame from that point forward. Well, that fully boxed frame is the most rigid type of frame technology. And the reason I'm using this up front is I've got an engine, 350 cubic inch engine that's constantly trying to torque. My frame holds it in place. I've also got a double wishbone independent front suspension that's working. My frame lets that suspension work better because it's very strong and rigid. And then of course in a front collision, what am I looking to protect in this vehicle with that fully boxed frame? Passengers. So I use that proper type of frame on the front of the truck. However, from that point right there, leading edge of the door handle, to your suspension pickup in the back, right here to the back of the cab, I transition from fully boxed to a reinforced C-channel. And here's what a reinforced C-channel is. I take my fully boxed, I lay it in there, and I curl the lip at the top and the bottom. And now I have a reinforced C-channel. Now the outside of that C-channel is here, so it's giving me great lateral strength in the event of a side collision. What again am I protecting inside this vehicle? Passengers. The other thing it does is it allows me to run my brake lines and any other lines protected inside that frame. If you look at our competitor trucks, you will see visible lines hanging down. Their lack of commitment to fit and finish. Well, if I have visible lines running down, it doesn't take much to go off-road, perhaps maybe a field, and I snag one of those lines, and now I've created a problem. We tuck our lines all the way in that frame, and that's obviously helping with our QDR, our ownership experience. I use that reinforced seat in the side of the truck, and then right back here, I transfer in the bed of the truck to an open C channel. And the reason I'm doing this is because a reinforced C and an open C is lightweighting. It reduces the overall weight of my frame. It also allows for dissipation of NVH, noise, vibration, and harshness, so I get a nicer ride in my truck. And the reality here is if I get hit in the back of this truck, it's just cargo. I can replace that. In a Sequoia, it's a precious cargo. I use a fully boxed frame. In this, it's not. I use a reinforced C. If I have a lighter weight frame, I can haul more in that bed. And then of course, there's gonna be a little bit of flexibility with this. And we always want a little bit of flexibility with our frame, because if I do that, then I can really carry those heavy loads. Envision with me for a minute, an airplane. Sunday night, I landed at Boise International Airport, and as my plane touched down, the wings are doing what? They're flexing. And if they didn't flex when I landed, what would they do? Snap. And I can't have that, right? So we build strength with flexibility. Final thought on this would be, if you have an opportunity, look at a Class 8 truck, a semi, and if you look at the back of the tractor, if it's disconnected from the trailer, you can look right down the frame, and you know what you're going to see? Reinforced C-channel leading to a fully boxed frame up front for the same benefits: engine, suspension, protection. However, reinforced C-channel, I'm lightweighting so I can haul and tow more with that tractor. So again, different frame and different area on the truck compared to our competitors that use a fully boxed frame. Now, gentlemen, do you think a fully boxed frame applied to both our SUVs and our trucks would be less expensive than having a fully boxed frame for the Sequoia and then a reinforced C-channel for a different truck? It's more expensive to have two frames. So we do it because it's the right frame on the right vehicle, and that's why we do it. I'm gonna walk to the back of the truck now, and I'm gonna invite you to come around. And typically what I'll do with the customer, guys, is as I walk by, if the customer's following me, I'll actually just reach up and I'll drop the tailgate. And this will give you a big tell as to where your customer is coming from. Because if you've ever done this and the customer walks around and they do one of these, where they go to catch the tailgate, I can guarantee you they're probably coming from a domestic truck. They're not coming from a Tundra, because we've had this since 2007. I remind you, gentlemen, it's dampening down and dampening up. So then I always ask the customer, this customer, just put that tailgate up. And what they usually say to me is, oh, that's easy. It's light, right? Well, how's that help my sales process if I could get customer to say that's easy? It helps, right? So I'm using that as a part of this process. And then, of course, I'm going to talk about the rear of the truck. And what I want to focus on first is the suspension. And then I am going to talk to you about our Class 5 hitch, because this is an ideal opportunity to visualize the over-engineering nature of our truck. So when I talk about the rear suspension, very unique rear suspension, we do use leaf springs, which Dodge Ram has gone to a coil spring on their 1500 truck. Well, guys, just an easy idea around this. If this is my coil spring and I'm going to haul a load, well, there's my coil spring trying to control that load, right? If this is my leaf spring and I'm hauling that load, I've got better connection. So with a truck, a leaf spring is the typical design of that suspension. Coil spring is going to be a little bit more comfortable ride, so that's the value statement there.
For grocery getting.
For grocery getting. There you go, Jerry. Thank you. For grocery getting, right? Well, the reality is we want you to get your groceries and haul 1,000 pounds, 200 pounds, right? Well, the way we do that is we use our leaf springs. They're very unique. They're a trapezoidal design. So that means they go off on an angle like this, and then we mount the shocks outboard of our leaf springs. We also put those shocks opposite direction. And by doing all of this, you're creating a more stable platform in the back of this truck to tow and haul heavy loads. Now that trapezoidal leaf spring, the opposed shocks, and then of course the outboard mounted shocks all gives me a very definitive advantage over my competitors. And in order to highlight that, I'm going to go ahead and show you. CJ, step up please. You're going to be my model. Come on over. Face the crowd, brother. You didn't know you were going to be a model today, but you look wonderful. Here we go. What I'm going to ask CJ to do is model your competitor's rear suspension. And to do that, CJ, just put your feet shoulder distance straight on, just like that. Thank you. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to push you and try and prevent me from knocking you off that axis. You ready? Here we go. Pretty easy, definitely, right? Now I'm going to ask CJ to mimic the rear suspension on a Tundra. And to do that, take a wider set, because my shocks are mounted outboard of my leaf springs. Just turn your feet that way, trapezoidal design. And now I'm going to try and push you off that axis and see what you can do for me. Come on, buddy. Nice job, brother. Come on, give him a round of applause. He didn't even know he was going to model today. Does everybody get what I'm demonstrating? You want to control a Tundra, a trailer, your Tundra will set that base, it'll hold it in place, and it's all done by geometry and suspension design, and it's all done with purpose. In fact, it's done with purpose to make that trailer experience safer and more enjoyable for our customers. Now, how are we towing all this? That's our Class 5 hitch. And the way I like to demonstrate this is to show the client the leading edge. We take that Class 5 hitch, and you can see the leading edge of it right here in the back of the wheel well. So right here is the leading edge of that hitch, and it's bolted literally to the frame. And by bolting that hitch to the frame, we've made it integral in the frame. And gentlemen, it is not a replacement for weight distribution bars. However, it's a great place to start with that trailering, because I'm taking some of the weight from that trailer, I'm putting it into my truck and onto that frame, and that's going to make my trailer experience better. Now, you can see immediately, this is a massive hitch, Class 5 hitch. As a matter of fact, Class 5 hitch is over-engineered for this truck, because a Class 5 hitch is capable of towing up to 12,000 pounds. Well, guys, you know the biggest trailer we have is 10,400 pounds. However, here's my challenge. If I put a Class 4 hitch on here, it's only capable up to 10,000 pounds. So if I sell a truck that can tow 10,400 pounds with a hitch that's only capable of towing 10,000 pounds, I just left 400 pounds on the table for my customer. You know Toyota's not going to do that. So we over-engineer that hitch. You get a 12,000 pound capable hitch in every one of these trucks. Your competitors, however, they have a Class 4 hitch on their truck. Well, some of your competitors claim 11,000 pounds of towing. Well, guys, do a simple math equation for me. If I tell you you can tow 11,000 pounds, but I only give you a hitch that'll tow 10,000 pounds, what do I have to do now? I've got to invest in a Class 5 hitch and put another 1,000-pound hitch on there. That's right. Your truck can't pull that much weight. So the reality here is we've over-engineered this hitch to tow every pound we tell you it'll tow. We also moved your pin connections to the bumper for 2014. So you've got a light-duty connection. You've got a heavy-duty trailer. I'm connecting my trailer to my truck, and I'm getting brake application as well as light application. We also added a brake control module into the Tundra, so now I immediately have connected my brakes. You don't have to add an aftermarket system. It's all integral to the Tundra, and with that trailer sway control, I'm now having a complete ownership experience, whether I'm hauling or towing a heavy load with this Tundra. And of course, that brake control module is going to be crucial to your towing capability. It's also, in my opinion, the best type where you can slide it in an emergency. So if I feel I'm running out of brakes, I reach down, I slide it, I can add more brake to my trailer very easily to try and get that trailer to engage to stop this truck. However, of course, I have TSSP, I have ABS, brake assist, EBD, track, VSC, and trailer sway control, electronically helping my customers stay safe and an enjoyable trailer experience. So over-engineered, that's what the Tundra is, that's what the Tacoma is, and quite honestly, it gives us a lot of advantages. Any questions about anything that I covered here? How y'all feeling about the Tundra?
Love it.
You ready to make it happen? Good, then let's go talk about traction and get out of the cold. Thank you all for your time, I appreciate it.